Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 5 today for the Dutch Grand Prix. The first time we're going to tackle Zandvoort in the career mode on this game. If you guys did miss the previous episode, the Chinese Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. That was a really awesome episode, very important one for the team, because spoiler alert, we were able to go on and get our very first points for Aarava Archer Racing. So historical episode, if you will. We'll look back at that episode, I'm sure, down the line in this series with a lot of glee at our very first points, but important one nonetheless. And we got some free upgrades from Honda that episode. Now, I guess karma has kind of balanced everything out, because this episode we start, unfortunately, with a failure. The very first failure we've seen on the R&D tree. The chassis upgrade on the tyre wear we were hoping to have for this episode is failed, so we're going to have to repurchase that. Although, I think there's enough time before the Grand Prix actually comes that we may actually be able to get that still on the car. But going towards Zandvoort, it looks like Haas may be set to have some massive upgrades, and they may look to re-overtake us, because on the R&D chart, it hasn't updated fully yet on the R&D graph, on the progress history, but on the actual chart itself, Haas have leaped us back ahead on paper. So I think Haas may be looking a lot stronger than they have done the opening rounds at Zandvoort, so that's something to look out for. So straight after getting our first points, we may have quite a difficult Grand Prix on our hands, but you can see the estimated delivery of the chassis is going to be 28th of April, so that may just be right before the actual Grand Prix, so just having to spend some more points to actually redo that. But speaking about getting things done before the Grand Prix, we then have some more activities to look at. A very different kind of set we've got here. We've actually got, for the first time, a very nice Easter egg, attend F1 esports event, which is kind of funny, because obviously I myself attended those events. You know, we saw some of the real-life drivers were attending the events last year, so it's kind of a nice thing to kind of have that in the game and really kind of meta in that kind of way. But we have a bit of an awkward period to look at, because we've got this press interview in the middle, so that's not going to allow us to eke out every single bit of the time available to us. We're going to go for the second driver PR filming, and so that will invest in Schumacher himself and try and boost his acclaim, I feel, but, you know, that will also inherently improve the team as well. And then I thought, you know what, let's go for attending the F1 esports event, as we had 4 days after this press interview, and I didn't want to waste that time on like a 3-day event, so I'd rather just block that out with 4 days. It's the first time we can do that, so unique choice there. So boosting the drivers, I guess, in terms of the kind of team acclaim, but you got to do that once in a while. And the choices were a little bit iffy in terms of the morale of other departments, in terms of trying to focus on one department too much, so I went for that. And then you can see we finally unlocked that third sponsor slot, because last episode we went higher than level 5 on the acclaim, so it unlocks a third slot for the sponsor. Now, this was an interesting one, because we could have gone for the highest weekly income. You can see there is Moon and Seren, I think that is, but the bonus goals were very unobtainable for those two sponsors. The two goals, I think, if I remember correctly, were kind of get into first place and lead the Grand Prix for at least 4 laps, or lead the Grand Prix for 2 laps in the difference of those two top sponsors. And we've been nowhere near even getting like just a kind of fake kind of lead of the Grand Prix, even if it's just for 2 laps. We've not been anywhere near that. Like, the top teams are so much quicker that anytime they make their pit stops, they always come out ahead of us anyway. So I thought there's no point getting that, because if we can try and go for a slightly lower sponsor in terms of weekly kind of payout, but the goal is more obtainable, we could eventually then get more money per week. Because if you're getting the weekly goal and then the bonus money on top of that, that'll obviously come out to more than the base value of those top sponsors. So we went for DSB Optics, very cool logo to be fair, but also we can go for the goal of achieving a top 10 finish. I feel like that's what we're trying to aim for anyway, every single Grand Prix. Will we get it every single race now, from now on, once we've got this sponsor on? No, but it's a goal that we can try and get, and the base level of money we can get from them is kind of pretty high. It's still in that kind of top third range of the sponsors available to us. So I thought it's kind of a happy medium, and overall, hopefully, that'll be a positive kind of development for us in terms of money. So not only now in the background can you see we're slapping on the new sponsors onto the car, but we're also going to change up the livery, because the podium pass is now available to us in the game. So I did have some new liveries unlocked, so I thought I'd jazz up the livery. Of course, I said, you know, the one we had before was quite basic, and what I wanted with this livery, as you guys voted for, with the white, black, and neon green, is sort of like a Brawn GP sort of vibe, but an evolution of that, and kind of not having just mostly white, but having a lot of black in there, and then kind of having the neon green be kind of accents and kind of complemented a little bit better than maybe the Brawn GP livery ever did back in 2009. So changing it up, obviously it's still maybe not exactly what I was envisioning when we started the series, but as we go on through the game, we'll unlock better liveries, and obviously there'll be some reboots of different liveries that we can unlock, and so hopefully we'll get to a point where eventually I'm very happy with the livery we have. But to be fair, I think what we've got right here is a good step up in evolution from that first livery we used for the first 4 episodes. So nice development there, but now let's go on and get this press interview done with Will Buxton.
Well, it's great to be back at your headquarters, and I've got to say, an awful lot's changed since we were last here. Let's dive in with some questions. Your team's been picking up points fairly consistently. Do you think you'll be able to become a challenge to the top teams in the future?
So this entire interview section, I didn't actually know this was going to be part of the game. I guess Will pop up quite frequently then throughout the season to ask us questions, which is quite nice, to be fair. Means it's less of a novelty thing and kind of consistently means we have to make sure we answer correctly, because you have to always try and make sure you're answering in a way that kind of boosts your team acclaim. Make sure you don't say the wrong thing as well, more importantly. So here I thought I'd go for the bottom answer, try and big up the team and kind of get that camaraderie going on.
Will your team be going for the Constructors' Championship this season, or just for points?
Here, I wasn't too sure if we would go, with a very ambitious answer. It was tempting, but in the end, I thought, let's just go realistic. We're looking to maybe hopefully score some decent points. Obviously, definitely not going for the championship, nowhere near that. It's still going to take a good, at this rate, probably a good, 2-3 seasons here. So, we're going to go for a load of points this season, and that was the best answer there for me.
Do you see your relationship with your second driver being long-term, or will you be looking for someone else if you're successful?
Now, this was tricky because technically I do have a thought of, when the time's right, let's replace Schumacher, because he's obviously not the best driver. None of the F2 drivers are, but I didn't want to really push that in his face. So we'll say we'll invest.
Would it be safe to say that in terms of team orders, your career comes first in your team?
So, continuing on with the kind of telling little white lies, we already just lied a little bit about investing in Schumacher and our second driver. In terms of my team, my rules, it kind of is, but I'm going to say there are no team orders. At this stage, it's too early to really be like that. We're not in a championship fight, so I'd say no, there are no team orders, and he can do what he wants.
Your second driver seems to be getting much more comfortable with their car. Have you been focusing on their development?
I would agree with the questioning. The Schumacher has got better. He has improved, especially last episode with me. He jumped forward quite a fair bit at China. So it's just all about, again, kind of complimenting him, making sure we don't say the wrong thing, basically. And we boost the acclaim there on the bottom.
Well, it's been wonderful to spend some time with you. Best of luck out on track.
Thank you very much, Will Buxton. So, like I said, nice surprise to see that through, because I had no idea that extra interview was coming through. So, I would maybe guess, every 5 episodes we might see him come through on the calendar chart, which I say, like I said, it's nice to make sure that's not just a novelty thing that's only shown in the first episode on the first race. So, here we are then, going through. Quickly want to show you guys the new livery in action on track during practice at Zandvoort, doing the practice programs. It's a little bit overcast, and the paint colour and the finish on this new livery is a lot more chromatic than it was in that first livery. So the neon green, unfortunately, isn't as electric green at times, depending on the lighting, as I wanted it to. But that's just what we're going to have to deal with. As you can see here, as we ride on board now, going into qualifying, it's a little bit more darker and subdued compared to what we had before. But I like the fact that off board, with the replay cameras, we've got this nice kind of more jazzy looking livery. And you can see on board, we've got this difference now. Our halo is now white and the chassis body is now black, and you can see way more accenting of green anyway. So to be fair, even though it's maybe not as neon and as lively as I wanted it to be, it's good to see all 3 colours on display on the onboard here with the new livery. But we're now into qualifying, like I said, our first flying lap in Q1, and straight away, I've got to be honest, something felt a little bit different with the car here. Around the corners, I felt comfortable around the lap, but I already got a sense that maybe our car wasn't as quick as some of our competitors through the higher speed corners. Haas have got a major upgrade this race weekend, and I'm down in P21 now after that first flyer, and I felt like I didn't make much of an error. I could definitely gain some time, as you're about to see, as we just attack these corners a little bit quicker, and we gain about 4 to nearly 5 tenths here. But it wasn't a horrendous, a big mistake lap. A little mistake for us there on the exit through the last corner there, so still some time to find as we go down to just under 4 tenths gain on that second lap, across the line, up into P18, just ahead of Mick Schumacher then. But as we go on through this session, the third flying lap, we hardly get line anytime, just about 1.5 tenths there, but that's literally just through the last corners. And again, a little bit more time lost on the exit, using obviously the most we can with curb on the exit to launch the car. DRS open, about 3 tenths gained across the line, and I was happy with that time gained, but in the end, it's going to be P19, so that really was not a great showing for either me or Schumacher. Schumacher down in P21, and look at Haas, they're up in P11 and 12, so I want to hope that this is just the circuit. Like, the circuit just doesn't suit our car. China, Bahrain, our car was suited to that one. Zandvoort, maybe not. But also, the upgrades Haas brought must have been mega and must have really suited Zandvoort, because they're way up the order, ahead of a Racing Point car of Stroll as well. But also, you know, Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri look a lot better than us now. So that was very odd. So, you know, maybe some big questions to answer for the race ahead. Before we get to the race, quickly though, going to spend some R&D points on the first reliability upgrade. I said that reliability may be important, and I'm starting to see our engine side of things wearing out a little bit here, so I thought we'd go for the reliability upgrade for the first time this season, just to have general reliability improvements of the entire car, and so that's hopefully a positive move for us as we go ahead. Unfortunately, can't afford any more, but I feel like the next upgrade to make is maybe the drag reduction upgrade, and try and push on a little bit further on the aero side, because clearly here at Zandvoort, you do need aerodynamics here, and clearly we're struggling a little bit, so let's try and focus a little bit more on the aero side now. That will come in handy though, because that will also reduce the drag, which will in turn also help out the straight line speed. So you kind of get best of both worlds in that kind of case. But let's go towards the race then. It may be a very harsh reality check though. I'm not looking forward to this one actually, compared to what I may have done at the very start of the episode, just off how qualifying went. So let's just see, and just make the most of it really.
It was 35 years ago that the late great Niki Lauda took his 25th and final Grand Prix win here at Zandvoort. He came from 10th on the grid to beat his McLaren teammate Alain Prost by just 0.2 of a second. Well, Zandvoort is a very different circuit today, of course, but still one with an incredible legacy. And we're going to add to that. Welcome along to the 2020 Dutch Grand Prix. A lap of this short 2.6 mile Zandvoort circuit features 14 corners, 10 to the right and 4 to the left. The main straight is 678 metres long and heads into turn 1, the Tarzan corner. With DRS down the main straight into the braking zone, that could be the best overtaking opportunity on the track. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, it's looking a bit cold out there, if I'm honest. These tyres have quite a narrow operating window in terms of the temperatures they need to extract the best grip. So with a cold track surface, it's going to be harder to keep those temperatures up, which will lead to lower grip and maybe more mistakes.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Max Verstappen, and Albon, Ricciardo, Perez, Sainz, and Lance Stroll, Norris, Kvyat, Romain Grosjean, and Ocon, Magnussen, Gasly, Kimi Raikkonen, and the owner driver. Russell, Schumacher, Latifi, and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
Well, here we are then on the grid, a little bit lower down than I wanted to, and we may have a very difficult Grand Prix ahead of us. It's going to be, unfortunately, a one-stop either way, which doesn't really give me much confidence, because with this car, we've seen the hard tyre, or just a one-stop, really, where I have to try and protect the tyres. It seems quite difficult with this car. You know, it's obviously a baseline car, stripped back compared to all the other teams, so the tyres are very difficult to try and keep in a good working range. I do as much as I can with the setup work in the background. I don't really show you guys, but in this year's game it's very important to try and lower the tyre pressures to make sure you have a good working range, but we found at Australia that was very difficult. So we're going to go for the alternate bottom strategy of starting on the medium tyres, and like China, hopefully try and just stretch the mediums longer, be on the hard tyre for less. I'm not saying it's going to recreate what we did at China. I don't think so, because clearly in qualifying we don't have the same pace. Even though at China we didn't qualify that well, I definitely feel like the feeling in the car was so much worse around that qualifying session we just had this episode than at Shanghai. So we definitely won't be repeating what we did at China, but let's try and do the best job we can with this alternate strategy on the mediums versus maybe others around us on the soft tyres, and we'll go from there, basically. But here we go then, the very first time we're going to race around the Zandvoort Dutch GP circuit in the F1 My Team career mode. Fire lights are out, and we're underway, and it's a bit of a shaky start, really slow one compared to the ones we've had previously there. Raikkonen gets boxed off by Gasly, who sends it down the inside once again. Pierre Gasly's AI really is a good dive bomber on lap 1, I'm finding out here in this My Team career, as we've now gone around the outside of Raikkonen up into P17. Schumacher trying to follow us through behind me, I believe, just looking at the left-hand side mirror, as Ocon is having a nice scrap with Magnussen. He's going to get the better of the Dane, as we're now side by side being overtaken by Raikkonen, but we come back at him second phase of this sector. Bit of argy-bargy there, bit of contact made on the right-hand side. Used a bit of overtake mode to try and stretch our legs a little bit. Still fighting us, though, as Kimi sends it to the inside, but he gets pinched out by us, and that allows Schumacher to come through. So a bit of nice teamwork there, in a way, as we now lead Schumacher. Up ahead of us, the two Alpha Tauris are side by side as Gasly fights Kvyat up ahead, and actually Schumacher has got a good run on the left-hand side of us there, defending to the inside. We should have that, yes we do, as he's unable to try and stretch it around the outside. As you can see, look at those grandstands, all filled with orange for Max Verstappen out ahead, trying to fight the two Mercedes cars and the Ferraris, but that's far away from the fight we're in with the Haas and the Renault maybe of Ocon up ahead. Can we get a good run on Magnussen? Yes we can. We grazed the wall a little bit. I don't think any damage came off that, but that was a little bit hairy there. Can't do that too often, as we now dive down the inside and get the job done on K-Mag, and we're now right up behind Ocon, but a bit of a snag of oversteer there on the exit. But Ocon looking a little bit slow to say he's in a Renault, and the Renaults have looked actually pretty quick so far in this career mode. But we're actually going to get a team radio very soon on lap 2, and that might tell us why.
Some information on Ocon. They're slowing down. It seems like there's some kind of problem with their car.
So Ocon has an issue with his car. He's slowing down, so we have a good chance maybe of trying to get him. But this is now, this kind of portion of the race, this is kind of giving you an example of why I think our car just isn't suiting this circuit. Or maybe I'm just not up to speed with this circuit. I've not done an amazing amount of laps around it, so maybe I've still got to find that rhythm and speed. But Ocon's got an issue with his car, yeah? So usually on the F1 game, when the engineer tells you the car ahead or a car on the grid has an issue, it's very easy to pass them. You usually breeze past them within half a lap if you're close to them. But you're about to see here, we close up a little bit, yes, on lap number 3. But we don't really hound him that much. And he's actually looking okay. He's hanging on the back of the McLaren, to be fair to him. But he's going to start falling away off the back of Norris in just a sec as we move on later onto lap number 4. And we're still not past him. So a whole lap and a half has gone by. And we're still not past Ocon, who still has the issue with his car, by the way. So that just tells you maybe the pace that, or the lack of pace that I have. And you can see a train is forming behind Ocon, and if it wasn't for me, I feel like this train wouldn't really be there, because I'm unable to get past him right now. Finally now, onto lap number 5, open DRS, go to the left-hand side, and we breeze past him in a straight line finally. But I say breeze, we have to do the job into the apex. He's still got his nose turned in, and we start to fight him on the exit. We get it done now, and we're up into P15, but that was a very telling sign of the Grand Prix that, for whatever reason, I just don't have much pace. Now, I have a theory watching back this Grand Prix. Of course, I do these commentaries after I've done the race. So I have a theory that when I grazed that wall trying to overtake Magnussen, I think there was a tiny bit of damage. Even if it wasn't cosmetic and didn't show up on the heads-up display, I think there was a little bit of front wing damage, and that's why I'm facing so much understeer or just not feeling great. And this is an example of why I think that, because on lap 7 here, so much understeer through the left-hander, albeit I had the same sort of understeer at Shanghai without any damage on my car, but Ocon was able to dive down the inside. We have to go very defensive here and really fight tooth and nail just for P15, and we're nowhere near anyone. Like, look at the mini-map. No one is near us. More understeer on lap number 8, and we're nearly off circuit now, and just finding it so awkward. And I find it hard to believe that this was just the car and the circuit, or like my driving and me not used to Zandvoort. I feel like there was some damage on the car that was really hindering the front end being turned in, especially at that corner and that section of the track. And again, we go very defensive and defend against Ocon for P15. Magnussen tucked up behind him, and sooner rather than later, you're going to start seeing pit stops now for the first guys on soft tyres. So that will be the real indication of, you know, where we're at, and it's pretty much going to be nowhere. Like, I think a lot of people ahead of us, even the midfield guys, are going to pit, and they're going to be, some of them might be ahead of us, having made a first pit stop, basically, which is very bad news for us, basically. And I guess we're going to find out about that right about now on lap number 12, and we're in P15 for now, but you can see on the mini-map, McLaren Racing Point in, Renault in of Ricciardo, and we're going to go around the outside, and we're going to use some overtake mode on the exit, squirt that through, very close, and it's actually a really nice overtake, to be fair, nice little bit of overtaking maneuver, but, you know, Ricciardo, i.e. the teammate of the man I'm just about keeping behind, has made a pit stop, and he's only just about being overtaken by us. Like, if I was maybe, like, you know, half a second later to that apex, he would have been fully ahead of us and kept ahead of us. Now my teammate's in, Schumacher's in on lap number 13, and our pace is not getting any better. So I really do think, looking back at this footage, I think we have some damage that I just don't know about. But at the time, I just thought, oh my god, I'm just driving horrendously. The car is feeling horrendous. But look at the understeer we've got here. And so now the McLaren of Sainz, I think that is, has a great run off that exit on hard tyres, I may say. And he's going to dive it around the outside, and he gets a great move made. We're going to keep it going, so the move's not finished yet. We're going to fight him as much as we can, side by side, all whilst holding up the two Renault cars, the Haas behind, the Racing Point, Sainz ran her outside. We're now neck and neck through the banked corner, the new part of the circuit, but again, we tapped the wall, and now for sure, I think we've got damage on the front left of tyre as we squeezed out Sainz, because as we enter turn 1, you're about to see on the replay camera here, on the offboard shot, there it is, damage on the front left. Now, that wasn't there. Reviewing footage from this race, that damage wasn't visually there before I hit the wall just then. So if I didn't have damage before, I definitely have damage now. But I really don't know why. For some reason, the game is not telling me on the heads-up display that I've got damage. It didn't pop up. Usually, when you get damage, the heads-up display like actually actively pops up, even without you having to flick onto it to kind of show you've got damage here on your front wing. But I had no idea at the time before, but now for sure I have damage. So now it's struggle town, because I've still got maybe 3 laps left to go in this stint till I make my pit stop. I probably in hindsight should have pit earlier, but at this stage I did not know I had damage either still. Like, I'm fully going to put my hands up, because you see there, I have not opened up my heads-up display. I have not opened up that part of the heads-up display that says, you know, what damage you've got on your front wing. And like I said, the game did not pop it up. And I can only tell you that I've got damage now, having obviously reviewed the footage and showing you the replay cameras, you know, in the editing. But at the time, in the cockpit, at this stage of the GP, I was still completely oblivious. So right now we're being attacked by the Racing Point, the other, well, no, not the other McLaren, the McLaren I fought off before of Carlos Sainz, but the Racing Point's got us. We're being minced down the inside by Carlos Sainz, and this entire time I'm just thinking, are these tyres going off? What on earth's gone on here? I had a maybe hunch there was some damage, but I wasn't sure, and we still had some okay pace here and there around the circuit as we now go defensive against Grosjean, which is our rival in the season, remember, for the team acclaim. So this is very important that we try and battle them as hard as we can. But Stroll's around the outside, so I've just been done by 2 cars, maybe a third if I can't get Grosjean back. We do get him. We send one to the inside there, and now it's going to be 3 wide between myself, the Haas, and the AlphaTauri of Gasly, I think that is. It's going to continue to be 3 wide. Look through this entire section. Fantastic shots there. Down the crest, up it again. Bit of contact made with Gasly, now the understeer kicks in, so it's all kicking off, but great action to be fair. We've not had much to shout about in this Grand Prix so far, so this is at least something, a nice little bit of battling with the Haas and AlphaTauri, but it's all going to be to no end basically, because I'm gonna make the pit stop, I'm going to change the front wing, and we're going to be absolutely nowhere. Even in comparison to like my teammate Schumacher, we're going to be nowhere, because we're in for our pit stop, and this was the first time I really confirmed in the cockpit I had damage, because to my surprise, I came into the pit box and thought, hang on, why are they changing my front wing? Why is my front wing being changed? Yeah, it's because I didn't know. I didn't know we had to change the front wing, and that was the first time I fully confirmed it for myself in the race whilst I was driving that, oh, I had damage that entire time on that first stint. So, yeah, a massive crash down to reality for us this race compared to China. We're in last place now. And, well, the only thing left to do in this Grand Prix is try and push as hard as we can and catch back up to the 2 Williams cars, overtake them, which I'm sure we can do, and then kind of hope that maybe there's some retirements, maybe a safety car. You never know. Never say no in Formula 1. So we carry on as determined as ever, and we catch up to Latifi. But, yeah, our race has really gone down the toilet in terms of getting anywhere near the points-paying positions, at least. Like I said, we'll try and still push on in this race. Lap 24, so 12 laps to go. Trying to go around the outside of Latifi there. Backing out of that, though. But I did want to... I really did want to try and make a move on the outside at the banking, just for the sake of, you know, saying I've done a nice overtake on the outside at that part of the circuit. But it proved a lot more difficult than I thought there with Latifi. And now we're pushing on to try and catch up to George Russell. We've got retirement, though. On the top left, you can see Vettel has retired out of this Grand Prix. So, once again, just like last episode, Vettel's been dealt a little bit of a blow there. This time, I wasn't involved at all with it. But lap 28, and only now do I set my personal best lap time on a set of hard tyres that have gone a fair few laps. So you can see the pace, how bad the pace was basically in stint 1, that I've set my PB on a set of hard tyres that have gone a fair few laps already in this Grand Prix. But now we're catching up to George Russell, but as I catch him, we get blue flags as the race leader. Quite nicely, Verstappen is the one leading the race. He's down the inside and he's going to overtake me. I think he's leading. He might be, or he's in second place. No, he's leading. So the Dutchman is leading the way at his home Grand Prix, so quite special for him. I'm sure the crowd are going absolutely wild for him and absolutely mild for me and Russell battling. But we get Russell down the inside there on lap 30, 6 laps to go. And now it's all about just getting to the end of the Grand Prix and hoping maybe we get some more luck. We do, in terms of, there was some yellow flags. I believe Raikkonen is out this Grand Prix, so we're in P90 now as it stands. So Vettel and Raikkonen are the guys that are retired. But now you can see we get hit with more blue flags. So Leclerc and Bottas will be past us. So we've really, you know, this, like I said, this really is a reality check. We've gone from scoring points for the very first time to being lapped by most of the top guys here. So, you know, this is the ebb and flow of my team, I feel. We're going to have races like this, and apologies there, I actually misspoke. I spoke too early about the retirement from Kimi. That actually happened on the last lap, or my last lap of the Grand Prix, because of course I've been lapped, so I only have to do 35 laps of this absolutely horrendous Grand Prix. So, I'm not going to lie, not a great taste in my mouth for the Dutch GP for the very first time in my team, but that's my own fault and the kind of car's fault. You know, 1, the damage, and also 2, even without the damage, I felt like our car didn't have a great pace. Schumacher didn't do too well on this Grand Prix, so we're going to come through, and it's just going to be a Grand Prix to forget, really. But you're going to have races like that, and in a way, we kind of needed a reality check off last episode to kind of check our ego and not get ahead of ourselves too much. So across the line, it's a race to forget, but nonetheless, it's a race. I guess that's all I can say, really. 18th place, Schumacher beats us, and Grosjean also beats us, so that's going to be fairly annoying for us in terms of losing out to the rivalry for at least this Grand Prix, unfortunately.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Red Bull today. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
Well, I know it's a bit of a boring answer, but the truth is they simply had the best speed package on the day, and a driver who knows how to take advantage of that. It doesn't matter how much time you spend poring over the stats and planning strategies if you can't keep the pace, and our winner today showed they could do both.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
Yeah, there we have it. Very nice, to be fair, for Verstappen to win his home race, and the Red Bull looking a lot stronger now. You know, consistent result at China, and then this win. So sure, for the championship, that'll be a nice, interesting fight to watch out for. But yeah, Schumacher P14 only, and yeah, we just had really not that much pace. You can see I was quicker than a lot of guys ahead of me, eventually on the hard tyres. So that's how, without the damage, I probably could have been battling Gasly legit for P12, and not just like what we're battling him with that three-way fight with Grosjean earlier on in the Grand Prix. But Kvyat, I helped him out massively. He got P7 in this Grand Prix. He only got P7 because I held up all his rivals in this race. So I helped out AlphaTauri, unfortunately, quite a fair bit. So now they're still in P7, but now they've got quite a few points ahead of us in the championship. So that was rather annoying. In hindsight, I probably should have just let everyone through because I really did help Kvyat clear out a number. I was basically a third driver for AlphaTauri in that race, which is kind of unfortunate. And like I said, we got beaten by Grosjean, so we lose out a little bit in the rivalry. We're still ahead just about 14 to 13 on those rivalry points, and so hopefully next time we can have a much better one at the Spanish Grand Prix. But that's been this episode at the Dutch GP. We do get a bonus of money from Atlantic. We do not get the bonus for our brand new sponsor with DSP Optics, but obviously even Schumacher didn't get points, so that's to be expected. But maybe next time, Spain, I have higher hopes we could get in the top 10 actually, and just get maybe P10 and get some more money. But to be fair, 2.42 million, good amount of money, and again, we can spend that at the very start of next episode on some more HQ upgrades. So till then, guys, if you enjoyed this one, smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Fallen content. I've been aarava. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.